Guys, I got a crazy story here for you. Four teenage members of a drugs gang were sentenced to 42 years on Friday for a campaign of terror that included cutting off the nose and two fingers of a rival. Isaac Wallace Greaves and Kay Henry Smith, who were both 18, Kobi Nelson, and a 17-year-old Harley Kavanagh, robbed other dealers of their drugs and money over a 9-month period, often in front of members of the public. The prosecutor, Michael Shaw, told St Albans Crown Court that one man was lured out of an address in London near St Albans. Prosecutor Michael Shaw told St Albans Crown Court that one man was actually lured out of his address near St Albans on the 13th of January 2020 when bricks were thrown at his car. He was chased, and when he slipped and fell on wet ground, he was struck with a samurai sword and a baseball bat. He lost two fingers and suffered the total amputation off the tip of the nose. He received a bleed to the brain, fractured skull, and open fracture to his right wrist, lost 3 teeth, and had multiple stab wounds. On December the 9th, 2019, a man parked up in a BMW in York Road near Clarence Park suffered stab wounds to his hand and arms when he was attacked with machetes and swords. He needed surgery to have tendons reattached. 12 days later, December the 21st, another man was ambushed in a car. His tires were stabbed and he fled from a man who was pursuing him with a knife. Another victim was chased into Sainsbury's in London Colony on 23rd of September 2020. When he came out of the shop, they tried to stab him and rob him. Staff who tried to intervene were then threatened. So all four men are being convicted by a jury of conspiracy to commit robbery and conspiracy to commit GBH. The defendants, who were aged between 15 and 18 at the time of their crimes, met at a school in St Albans. Henry Smith also pleaded guilty to causing GBH to a man he stabbed in the back with a large black combat knife in St Albans. Nelson also admitted possessing cannabis in Harpenden. Judge Richard Foster said he found Wallace Greaves, Henry Smith and Kavanagh, who had been involved in the Cotslandswick attack, as dangerous offenders. It means they will have to serve 2/3 of their sentence before they can be considered for parole. Nelson could be considered for parole after half of his sentence. So Wallace Greaves, Henry Smith and Kavanagh were each sentenced to 12 years detention with an extended sentence of 5 years, which means they can be returned to custody at any time in the next 17 years. Nelson was sentenced to 6 years detention. The judge told Kavanagh and Wallace Greaves, who attacked the man who had his nose chopped off, "You behaved like a savage when you carried out the merciless attack on the victim. It's hard to understand how one human being can behave in such a way to another." He told all four of them, "For all of you, there is a significant aggravating feature of motivation of targeting known drug dealers, either to steal their money or drugs, in the knowledge that such victims are unlikely to cooperate with the police." The court heard that on the 22nd of October 2019, before the 4 events outlined by the prosecution, the police had forced entry into a home in St Edmund's Walk in St Albans. It was the home of a vulnerable person who was being cuckooed by the 4 who were using the address as their base. The judge commended the police for an investigation. After the case, DC Jodie Perrin said, "This violence affected the whole of St Albans and London Colony. It was complicated as we have unsupported victims and witnesses who were petrified to give us any information whilst drug dealing was happening outside their homes, but they were complaining that we weren't doing enough." St Albans Detective Inspector Adi Liask said these offences were premeditated, organised and executed with the goal of trying to exert their authority over drug operations being run in St Albans. The gang were inflicting serious injuries at knife point and stealing from their victims. These teenagers were dangerous, not just to others, but also to themselves. They arranged drug meets in residential streets armed with machetes and swords, which were seen by families including children. There was a genuine and significant escalation in violence. So this investigation was overseen by Detective Sergeant Tom Evans, who said there was a genuine and significant escalation of violence which was so dramatic that there was a real and significant risk that someone may have been killed. We were thrilled that these individuals are now behind bars and the residents of St Albans can go about their daily business without the fear of violence hanging over them. It was one of the biggest police responses to a series of incidents in St Albans. Absolute madness. These guys, they were between 15 and 18 years old whilst they were carrying out this crazy behaviour. Let me know what you guys think. It's your boy GC. Keep it locked, keep it real.